Hello, my name's Tish, and I'm going to talk a little bit about vaccines and our particular family's experience with them. I have 3 children. My oldest is 37, and she had her DPT shot, the 2, the 4, the 6-month one, but the 18-month one, she had a severe reaction. And later we learned that it wasn't over when it was over. So high fever for a few days, totally lethargic. However, when we finally had her, we obviously noticed problems, but in the motor area. And what we finally did at age 11 was have it confirmed by a well-respected neurologist who basically had me bring her baby book to the office, and he graphed her developmental milestones, and she did everything either earlier on time up to 18 months, and at 18 months she falls off the chart. She cannot do anything that requires using both hands, both sides of her body simultaneously, but doing different things, such as blow drying your hair. One hand's doing something, the other hand, she can't coordinate that. She does a beautiful breaststroke because that is using both hands and both legs are doing the same thing. Whereas freestyle, even though she's a very competent swimmer and she could, stay in the water for hours, her freestyle is jerky because it requires you to do one hand forward, one back, one foot up, one down. So that's the best way I can explain it. At 18 months, my pediatrician, who was very pro-vaccine, said to me, and only twice in all the years we had him did he do this, he looked me right in the face, made sure he had my attention, and he said, if I'm not her pediatrician, when she turns 5, do not let anybody give her another DPT shot. And I thought, okay. Years later, I bought my kids' pediatric records and came to see that all he wrote in her chart was no more DPT, diphtheria, pertussis, tetanus. Okay, so at 11 years of age, when we had her tested by the neurologist, he confirmed, in fact, it was the pertussis. In his words in the office, he said, I see this. I wouldn't say it's uncommon, but I also wouldn't say it's common. However, when he wrote the letter to me, his words in the written form were, may have been caused by the DPT. He was awfully sure verbally in the office and not so sure in his letter. And I've come to learn why later, but I'll get to that. So anyway, now fast forward, my daughter, I have an 11-year-old granddaughter, so it's my oldest daughter's daughter first. And she had, she was basically bullied by her pediatrician. Actually, it wasn't a pediatrician, the doctor. Lived in a small town in upstate New York, and he basically was playing God and said, you have to get this one. Because at 8 weeks, in case you're not aware of the current schedule, babies who weigh about 12 pounds at 8 weeks are given 7 different toxins in one day. 3 shots. But anyway, my daughter and I had studied, given her reaction. We studied, and she said, I'm not doing that. So anyway, she didn't want to do it. The doctor pretty much bullied her and forced her to get one, which was the DPT. And 36 hours later, she had a seizure. And she, because pediatricians tell these mothers to lie babies on their back to sleep, which is stupid. Anyway, she was on her back. She vomited during the seizure. Luckily, her head was turned, and she was on a wedge to have her in an upright or a more upright position. Anyway, my daughter called the doctor. It was 4:30 in the morning. My daughter doesn't drive because of her motor damage, and the baby's daddy was in Iraq, so here she is stuck, and it was about 30-something degrees. This is October in New York. And I said, honey, the seizure's over. Just call your doctor in the morning. To which he said, oh, that wasn't caused by the vaccine. So anyway, the poor guy had no idea who he was messing with, but I ended up writing a letter and turning him in, and they found him guilty of 8 infractions regarding vaccines. You know, my daughter offered to buy the one that has less aluminum. I was going to pay for it. He could order it and administer it. No, no, no. He told her the only one she could get in New York was this particular brand, which she knew wasn't true. He never gave her a vaccine information sheet. I mean, the list goes on. Anyway, that's beside the point. Now, in the year 2000, let's see, Megan, the oldest, would have been, gosh, 15 or 16. Anyway, she wasn't in the family group that I'm going to describe. We do a lot with our best friends, and my 2 goddaughters and my kids have grown up together. And my middle daughter was in high school freshman year. My girlfriend was picking her up from school. Long story short, my goddaughter brought DPT home. She brought pertussis home, whooping cough, and gave it to her mother, who gave it to my daughter, who gave it to me, and I gave it to my son. Now, the interesting thing about this is there were 8 people. So 4 in their house, 4 in our house. 5 of us got pertussis. We'd all been vaccinated. All 8 of us had been vaccinated, thinking, believing the government that, oh, you'll have lifelong immunity. Well, that didn't sound so good. So anyway, long story short, I ended up calling the head of the Department of Health, St. Clair County, California, where we live. And I said, what's going on? And she backpedaled and, did not want to tell me. Finally said, well, we're finding out that only 50% of people keep their immunity. I said in our group, it was more like 40%, since 5 out of 8 of us got pertussis. By the way, it was misdiagnosed by 3 doctors. Once I got diagnosed, then we knew what everybody had. We all had the same thing. And we had to go through the 6 months of, not very pleasant. So anyway, we all got it. We were all vaccinated. I should say 5 out of 8 of us got it. And so my take on it, to keep this brief, is number 1, and I said this to the head of the Department of Health, Public Health. I said, so we have a low efficacy vaccine and a high injury vaccine, and you're pushing it on everybody, telling them that they're protected for life. Well, she didn't really like that too much. But anyway, my whole thing is that you look at each child and each vaccine and you evaluate. Now, we gave it to our other 2 kids, not realizing that long-term damage was from the vaccine. They fared well, so you just don't know. But my daughter has been told no child of hers should ever have a pertussis vaccine. Kind of obvious, right? But the doctor who told her that was the neurologist who treated my granddaughter for seizures, and it was on the 3rd attempt that he finally, after my daughter asked, what is causing the seizures? He said it's the pertussis. Refused to put it in writing. So that whole thing is about CDC will come knocking on their door and find out why you're allowing your patients to slow down or spread out vaccines. Many states, including where we live in California, we have mandated vaccines. Yes, and it is not a one-size-fits-all. And I'm not totally anti-vaccine, but there are few I would get, and I would not ever get them on the schedule that is recommended by the American Academy of Pediatrics. Again, 7 of them at age 8 weeks. Now I know there's at least 1. I believe there may be 2 on the day they're born. So here you have this brand new baby. You don't know if it has any issues yet, and you're pumping, aluminum in their brain already. So anyway, now my oldest granddaughter, who had the seizures for a year, she did grow out of them, thank God. She seems to be fine, but she should never have the MMR. And that is because it has the highest seizure profile of any vaccine. And so anyway, and of course they recommended it, I don't know, a year and a half. Oh, good Lord, don't ever give a child one that young. But anyway, every vaccine has to be evaluated for every person. And, you know, most of them you don't need. Anyway, that's my thing on vaccines, and hopefully this has been somewhat helpful. Thanks.